Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. We do educational videos here, and um, we focus on great theories of everything, ancient and modern, mainly obscure, and we hope that it helps you to shift your paradigm, to help you with your mental, spiritual, and physical health, and your formation of a holistic worldview. And today is our 51st video that we've done on Daniel Ingram and his book called Mastering the Core Teachings of the Buddha. And this book is a compendium of pretty much everything that, not everything, but all major fields of things that Mr. Ingram, Dr. Ingram knows about Buddhism, from his many stays in Buddhist monasteries for retreats, his thousands of hours on the cushion, meditating, following these practices, this science of reality, technology that allows us to awaken ourselves and to eliminate suffering for ourselves. He lays it all out here in this book and puts it right in our laps, just waiting for us to engage with it. And so we are in chapter 31, I think. It's been a while. This is a long chapter, but it's on the progress of insight, and it goes over really the 16 stages of insight as your hardwire awareness. I'm not sure what the word is. Mind, your consciousness. I'm not sure what the actual word that he would use would be, but they're all the different stages that we go through as we progress in insight meditation, which is really to open up our five senses and our mind and investigate the sensations thereof for the three characteristics of impermanence, dissatisfactoriness, and not self. And so we notice all those different aspects of our reality, and as we do so, we progress. And he is, I don't know what stage we're on here, either 14 or 15, and 15, fruition. Okay, so we're at the second to last stage, and this is where fruition, everything all kind of comes together. And we'll start in Dr. Ingram's words right here. Just after the attainment of a path, particularly the first path, is a time when formal resolutions have an outrageous amount of power. The Buddha said that the greatest of all powers is to understand and then teach the Dharma, meaning to attain full realization, however you define it, and then to help others do the same. I had been advised to use this unique period in my practice well, and I resolved to attain this awakening for the benefit of all beings as quickly as was reasonably possible. Despite all the complex consequences of having done so, I do not regret my decision in the least, and highly recommend that you do the same. On subsequent passes through fruition of that path, the mind tends to be refreshed, bright, quiet, and clear for a while, and milder forms of the above-listed phenomena may occur. The afterglow can seem to clear out all the junk for a little while, there is a nice bliss wave that tends to follow and may take a few seconds to develop. You can take that bliss wave as a shamatha object if you wish. And just remember, shamatha is a concentration meditation, and so you could meditate on that object, the object of your bliss, if you wish, and intensify it as a possible option. If you have not learned the concentration states yet, doing so in the afterglow of a fruition can make them much easier to attain and master. The breath may change on the reappearance of reality being a bit deeper, slower, easier, and more fluid. The total synchrony of the sense sphere that leads to a fruition shows a fun physiological fact. Fruitions always occur at the end of the out-breath, and reality reappears at the beginning of the in-breath, which is one of the cool reasons that finding the end of the out-breath can be powerful practice. For those who really want to get to know something interesting, notice exactly how reality reappears or remanifests and how the mental processes resume at an extremely fine level. This is best done by intending to notice it sometime before the fruition happens. Most people who have a fruition are so relieved by it that the relief is most of what they notice. But those who can pay attention to more detail than that and do this well are afforded a rare treat, getting to see the processes that make up the functioning of our brains as they come online and orient to the surroundings, as well as to see the restarting of the sense of the illusion of duality and exactly what makes that up in that powerfully clear attentional mode. It is fascinating stuff and can lead to some serious clues about essential parts of the puzzle that help later. I recommend doing this again and again, as it generally takes going through it a good number of times to see what is really happening clearly and notice the assumptions we make about those processes and how they relate to things like me, time, space, and the like. Please note that there are at least two uses for the term nibbana, one of which is fruition. The reference for this comes from the Abhidhamma, or higher Dhamma, teachings in this context, accessible in English as a comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma by Narada Mahathera, available free online and in print form. This is the standard Theravada literature on Buddhist mind-moment theory and many other technical points, and it details that there will be 3 or 4 pulses of phenomena which, when they occur for the first time, are conformity, path, and change of lineage, which are steps 12, 13, and 14, stages 12, 13, and 14, and then the mind will turn to nirvana, or nibbana, and then the stream of ordinary sensate awareness will resume. For those who actually do check out the Abhidhamma, which is a very good idea if you want to give more context, background, and support to your practice, you will notice that some of the biology seems pretty archaic, so don't get derailed by that. The meditation theory remains quite helpful. Those who sometimes mention online and in person to me that they think that Mahasi Sayadaw or I made up this stuff about the jhanas, nanas, stages, and other Buddhist theories should read the Abhidhamma, or get your practice to the point where you yourself can perceive directly what these early followers of the Buddha perceived, and you will be satisfied by direct knowledge At that point, the text those followers wrote might make a lot more sense to you, and you may gain even more benefits by appreciating them based on your own practice instead of dismissing them based on ignorance. I'm trying to find my mouse or my cursor here. Okay, there we go. Now it looks like we just finished, I guess we were in chapter 30. So that's the end of chapter 30. Although he didn't cover stage number 16 review. Maybe the 3 doors come before that. Well, the 3 doors are really the change of lineage, path, and conformity, but I think they're also the 3 characteristics. We'll see, because chapter 31 is called the 3 doors. Insight practice is all about understanding the 3 characteristics to such a depth that we may see beyond the 3 illusions, which are the opposite of the 3 characteristics, that being permanence, satisfactoriness, and self, and enter ultimate reality through one of the 3 doors, which is a metaphorical way of describing the few moments before a fruition. Stages 12 through 14 and subsequent attainments of fruition at that level of awakening present a radical and complete understanding of the 3 characteristics at the level of formations. That is, at the level of the whole sensate universe, lasting 3 or 4 moments of 1/10 to 1/4 of a second each. As unpalatable as the 3 characteristics can seem, in the end they are the source and substance of our complete salvation. There are 3 basic ways the doors may present themselves, at least 2 of which are combined in practice to produce the experience of entering fruition. The 3rd characteristic is generally considered to be inferred from the way the other 2 present, but sometimes aspects of that 3rd characteristic will be experienced directly. Regardless of the way a specific door manifests, it reveals something completely extraordinary about the relationship between the watcher and the watched, that it could take a very warped, non-Euclidean view of the universe to explain, though I will try shortly. One way or another, these fleeting experiences cannot easily be explained in terms of our normal 4-dimensional experience of space-time, or within our ordinary subject-object experience. Maybe because our 4-dimensional experience of space-time is incorrect. I've done several hundred videos on Dewey Larson and his reciprocal system of theory that you may want to check out if you'd like to hear a different model of space-time or motion. But back to the text. One way to distinguish a door to fruition from an arising and passing away event is that the 3 doors involve the whole experiential space-time continuum, as well as the object of investigation, as these become an integrated whole. This does not hold absolutely for arising and passing away events. If we are being honest with ourselves, as the subtle background of sensations that provide reference points is not completely included. Further, arising and passing away events tend to be very rich and thick, whereas there is always a sort of quiet simplicity to the way the 3 doors present. As stated earlier, the arising and passing event occurs very much as the 3 doors, is then followed by an unknowing event, But then there are a few moments, usually about 3 or 4, as the breath drops all the way to the bottom, followed by another unknowing event and a state shift. Without a doubt, the clearest and most illuminating experiences of the 3 doors come from attaining fruition in the formless realms or in the realms of the psychic powers, though the latter are not necessary, just interesting, memorable, and educational. Another perspective would say that the 3 doors always happen at the level of the psychic powers, as seeing with wisdom is listed as a power, in fact, the highest of the powers. The strength of our concentration practice and the recent continuity of practice will also help determine how clear these experiences are. I had to go through them hundreds of times with an eye to exactly how they are presented or how they presented before I could write a chapter such as this one. Literally, I don't know where I got that word literally from, but the word is actually plenty. Plenty of people have failed to notice the previous sentence and thought that they would likely have similarly clear experiences. When I say that I had to go through them hundreds of times to compile this list, with only a small fraction of those yielding the nuggets of Dharma goodness that I serve up below, I mean it. Do not expect that you will necessarily be able to notice all of these with this degree of clarity anytime soon or perhaps ever. I must reluctantly admit that fine phenomenology expressed in clear writing seems to be a particular talent of mine. And it turns out that this is not that common even among excellent, learned, disciplined, talented, and awakened practitioners. The practical point is that should you not have those particular skill sets, do not fret or fear, as they are certainly not required to get the benefits of these practices. Far more common than being good at noticing the fine points of how these happen is being able to go through the 3 doors regardless of whether you can describe them as occurs here. If you too care about being a phenomenology junkie, resolutions to understand how the doors occur and investigating them obsessively, as I did for many years of strong practice, will likely help. I don't necessarily recommend it, though neither would I ever discourage someone from pursuing it. Regardless, enjoy the afterglow that follows going through these doors, and don't worry too much about it. I will explain the aspect that each characteristic lends to each door, and then combine these to explain what happens. When particularly clear experiences of the 3 quick moments or the 3 doors occur, they can provide fundamental clues that can be used for further debunking the 3 illusions, as well as explaining where so many of the teachings come from that try to describe the true nature of things. Each of the doors turns on its head something about attraction, aversion, and ignorance, and finally gets to do the skillful thing that they were unskillfully trying to accomplish. Attraction wants to plunge into and stay with the pleasant parts of reality, to merge with them. And the no-self door actually does this. Aversion wants to get away from the unpleasant parts of reality, and the suffering door actually does this. Ignorance is a tough case, as it wants to detune from reality and do something else. And the impermanence door actually does this. More specifically, the impermanence door aspect has to do with mind moments, the particle model, arising and passing vibrations, understanding that from which all arises and that to which all returns, understanding the source of all reality, the universe strobing in and out of existence, and so on. When the Tibetans talk of the lack of a substantial way of existing or lack of an unchanging mode of being, they refer to the fact that all experience is utterly transient, the wave model, and thus abides or exists, not at all, but is constantly in absolute flux and ephemeral. The impermanence door aspect relates to realizing what is between the frames of sensate universe formations. And it tends to have a ... gone quality to it, as if all of space has stuttered 3 or 4 times in very rapid succession, about a quarter of a second or less for the whole thing, and disappeared. It is the fastest of the 3 and tends to be the most surprising. The suffering door aspect has to do with fundamental attachment, dropping attachment like a hot coal that we finally realized we were holding, really letting go, compassion, ultimate bodhicitta, the true love of God, being purged in the flames, renunciation, relinquishment, and feeling the fundamental queasy tension in the illusion of duality for just a bit longer than we ever would normally. The suffering door relates directly to the mind, so-called, releasing its fixation on the whole of relative reality and allowing the whole of it to fall away completely, meaning away from where we thought we were. It can also feel like all existence is suddenly ripped away from us. In this, as with the other doors, the mind followed a phenomenon to its final and complete disappearance and didn't do the strange blinking out, glossing over thing that it typically does regarding this gap between moments. The suffering door aspect tends to be the most unsettling or wrenching of the 3 doors, the most death-like. It is always a touch creepy. People are often not expecting creepy as a key aspect of the entrance to something of such importance as a fruition. So they can sometimes confuse practitioners who notice this aspect and leave them wondering what happened. They may possibly dismiss the experience as being something less than the perpetually flawless and amazing thing that it is. The no-self door has to do with the teachings on the mirror-like nature of the mind, the Spirit of God moving upon the face of the waters, from Genesis 1:2. God making man in his image, merging with a tantric manifestation, and thus cognizance of a Buddha or guru, which you realize in that moment is of the same nature as your own cognizance. Seeing our original face, thinking of who created thought, etc. It relates to observing directly the collapse of the illusion of duality, the collapse of awareness into the intelligence or cognition of the perceived. It is a bit like staring back at yourself or something intelligent, regardless of whether it looks like you, with no one on this side to be stared at, and then collapsing into that image. Sometimes there is just the collapse without any obvious image for those without strong visual tendencies. The no-self door is the opposite of the suffering door in that everything comes this way rather than everything going that way. The no-self door aspect tends to be the most pleasant, easy, and visually interesting of the three. It is slightly slower than the others, maybe half of a second for all 3 to 4 moments of it. One usual variant of the no-self door I have noticed, only rarely, is that it feels like the whole of space contracts suddenly into a single point at the seeming center of awareness, and then everything immediately vanishes. Each of these doors has to do with complete understanding of the ultimate aspect of relative reality, and thus with realizing the ultimate nature of ultimate reality. Each door also relates to completely counteracting one of the 3 fundamental defilements. The impermanence door relates to counteracting fundamental ignorance. The suffering door relates to counteracting fundamental attachment. The no-self door relates to counteracting fundamental aversion. When I use the word fundamental, I always mean the 3 illusions of duality and their gradual or sudden elimination. Thus, I use the word fundamental when I am talking about when what I am talking about has nothing to do with specific content in the form of conceptual thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, mind states, psychological manifestations or understandings, or any other specific and limited categories of sensations, since the 3 doors work with whatever is going on as their content. I will now try to describe 6 possible combinations of these 3 aspects that create the actual experiences of the 3 doors. While there can be significant variation in the specifics of how these doors present, they will always fall into one of these basic patterns. As I stated earlier, these events are so brief and sometimes so surprising that those who have been through them many times may not discern that they present in the way I describe them here. When the impermanence aspect predominates and is combined with the no-self aspect, the whole universe strobes 3 times quickly, possibly with something staring back at us as a minor aspect of that universe if you are prone to visuals. And then it seems that awareness collapses into space after the 3rd gap, perhaps turning slightly towards what was staring back, if we notice that. When the impermanence aspect predominates and is combined with the suffering aspect, and now just remember, suffering is the same as dissatisfactoriness. So sometimes he calls it suffering, sometimes dissatisfactory. Then the 3 strobing moments feel wrenching, and the plunge into the gap feels fundamentally violating and startling, like exactly the wrong thing to do, as we notice each pulse of the pulling away. When the no-self aspect predominates and is combined with the impermanence door, there are 3 clear and discrete moments of moving toward or sideways, to or perhaps focusing on an intelligent, seeing image staring back at us, except that there is nothing on this side. Again, not everyone will have the strength of visualization to notice an image on that side falling into this one, and may just notice the falling into part. After the third moment, the illusion collapses in a very natural and pleasant way. When the no-self door predominates with suffering as its second aspect, then a very strange thing happens. There may be an image on one side staring back, but even if there isn't, the universe becomes a toroid, donut-shaped, or occasionally a sphere. And the image and this side of the toroid switch places as the toroid universe spins. It may spin sideways, horizontally, or it may spin vertically, like head over heels, and may also feel like a hood of darkness suddenly being pulled over our heads as the whole thing synchronizes and disappears, or like everything twisting out of existence. The rarest no-self suffering variant is hard to describe and involves reality becoming like a donut whose whole outer edge rotates inwards, such as to trade places with its inner edge, the edge that made the hole in the middle. That rotates to the outer edge position, and when they trade places, reality vanishes. The spinning includes the whole background of space in all directions. Fruition occurs when the two have switched places and the whole thing vanishes. Okay, I think we're going to stop right there. And well, let's see. I think I'm just going to read one more short paragraph here. For all the no-self variants, no-self door variants, there is not always an image of something staring back, as that typically involves stronger concentration. Some no-self variants can have sort of a swinging or rocking sensation that can occur for a few seconds before they occur. Like space and attention were starting to swing together around us. Okay, we'll start again tomorrow in this pretty arcane original material. Have to think about all this stuff here. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today, and have a great